Hi everybody, welcome to Brain Science Part 2. In this video we are going to go over some of the parts and jobs of the brain for you. This video will be a tad longer than the other one, so if it starts to be too much or you feel like you can't keep up, please pause or rewind and replay. You can even watch half today and half tomorrow if you like. That's the beauty of doing notes and lectures on a video. Okay, so here we go. So let's talk. Do you ever feel like your brain is betraying you? I often get looks from 8th graders when I ask this question. For example, all of a sudden you're angry or you're sad or you're frustrated or what have you, or you can't remember how to do something and you swear you knew how to do it. There might be other examples, okay? You're not imagining it. And we'll get to the why later on. So a basic overview, we're going to talk about the parts and jobs of your brain, the basic ones. This is also known as structure and function. That's a science theme that you will come across many times, okay? So the brain basics. You probably know that the brain is central command. It receives information from the environment. It processes that information, decides whether it's important or not, and then it will send a command that helps you to respond to that information. It does need its own form of work and rest. So it does need to be challenged to be able to grow and learn new things, but it also needs rest, sleep, time without a device, time without a lot of noise. These things will benefit your brain, okay? The whole thing is made up of neurons. It's a fancy word for nerve cells, and the outsides of the cells are covered in fat, actually. That means that fat is good for your brain. Okay, and that insulation, that fat insulation, is kind of what helps send a message from one cell to another. Okay, fun fact of the day. Alrighty, so these are the three main parts of the brain. You won't be tested on these big words, so don't worry about it. I'm just trying to teach you a little bit about how that whole thing works up there. So out here, the outer part, and you can kind of think of this as kind of like a peanut M&M, or just a basic M&M with this outer shell and then the inside. Okay, so this is our thinking brain, our human brain. This is where we can think things through. This is where language lives. This is where we can use our imagination. Okay, our feelings and reasoning, all that jazz, that's in the outer part, or the cortex is what it's called. Just inside of that is called the mammalian brain. So these are emotions, learning, memory, and motivation. Okay, that's where those live, if you want to think about it that way. And then down here, this is kind of back here, underneath here, and this, to help you remember, this is your brain stem, and it continues on as your spinal cord, all the way down your back. Okay, so back of head, this is like the front, like this, okay? So anyway, down here, we call this the reptile brain because these are the things that reptiles can do. And it's concerned with all things survival. So your heart rate, breathing, it automates that so that you don't have to think about it. Imagine if you had to think about increasing your breathing when you started to run. Wouldn't that make running way harder? So this part of your brain just does that part for you, okay? Moving on. The limbic system is kind of housed in that middle brain area. Again, don't worry about these giant words, but these are the structures and this is their job. I want to talk about this amygdala and also the hippocampus. Okay? So, and then also again to sort of orient you, this little nerve right here, it actually sits right kind of in here but back a little bit further. So this is your olfactory nerve. This is how you smell. And if you notice, it's literally linked, wired almost directly to your amygdala, which is where some emotions kind of begin and are housed. So have you ever had that sensation where you smell something and you automatically have a happy feeling or maybe a not so good feeling? But then look what it's right next to, memory. So you might have a smell that all of a sudden it makes you think of a time, grandma's house, something along those lines. I remember my 6th grade teacher telling us that because smells are so closely linked to memory, if you smell, let's say you smell an orange while you're studying, and then just before the test, I don't know, you're going to sneak out a little orange slice and smell it, or even think about oranges, it will kind of help jog your memory. Fun fact of the day. Okay, if you can see this link down here, oops, go back, where it says Teen Brain Talk, that's a really good source, okay, FYI. So if we were in class, which I hope we will be soon, this is where we would pause and I'd have you kind of do a small group chit chat. Instead of that, I want you to pause me right now and write down at least one question you have in your notebook, okay? Okay, this is a very wordy slide. You do not need to write all of this down at all. But if you're feeling stressed, you're in middle school, that's normal, okay? So your amygdala, that little part in your brain that's sort of, it's very close to your sniffer nerve, okay? Sometimes it's called a screaming almond, partly because that's its size and shape, and partly because your emotions can kind of flare up there. And if you're stressed out, which stress can be caused by many things, a test coming up, not enough sleep, too much sugar, skipping breakfast because you wanted to sleep in, okay, a fight with a sibling, the list goes on and on. If it feels stressful to you, this is where that process sort of begins, okay? Now, this doesn't mean you have an excuse to lose your temper. This means you have to check in with yourself. Did I get enough sleep? Were those 2 Mountain Dews a good choice? Probably not. Okay, so this means you are responsible for checking in with your own choices. Okay, but here's the kicker. That stress can kind of keep you down in that reptile brain. So if you're spinning and you're worried about that fight with your friend, which I know it can be a very big deal, okay, you're spinning around down here, that can make learning, the thinking part, very difficult. Okay, so if you're coming into class and you're not feeling, very attentive, take some deep breaths, do some jumping jacks to get out of here and up into your human thinking, learning brain. Okay, this is one of my favorite facts of all time. Your brain, my dear teenagers, is rewiring itself. That means if two neurons are hooked for whatever reason, okay, about 1 in 5 of those connections, or 20 out of 100, they are breaking and making new connections that you now need to know. Okay, that can be it can be knowledge, it can be a skill. This is why sometimes you feel like you're forgetting things, or all of a sudden you don't remember how to do long division or something. This can feel very annoying. It's not all in your head, but it kind of is all in your head. Get it? So remember Inside Out? All these characters, they represent I think this is joy and sadness and fear and disgust and anger, right? And then this guy over here, Bing Bong. Do you remember in the movie where she had to forget Bing Bong so that a different connection could be made? That's kind of what it's like. I love this movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Okay, so tips for if you are feeling stressed. I'm not going to read these all to you. You can pause me and do that yourself. But get plenty of rest. Do some deep breathing. I can show you these in time. Drink water. Okay. The endless energy drinks, it can kind of put your brain into overdrive. It's one of those things that maybe half a can isn't the worst thing in the world, but 3 cans a day, not good for your brain. Eat good fats when you can, fish, meat, avocados, unless you, of course, have an allergy. An allergy would come before that, of course. Number 5, don't try to multitask. You're not doing it. It's a myth. Okay, research has actually shown that when you're multitasking, you're actually stopping from one task, your brain switches to the other task. This is true if you're trying to do homework and then respond to your text, or you're trying to watch a movie and also talk to your friend. Going back and forth all the time, it drains your brain of its energy, just like having 20 apps open on your phone drains the battery. Okay, be nice to yourself. Focus on fewer things. Okay, and then limit your device time, whether you're in or out of school. If you're feeling overwhelmed with a video, pause it, look out the window. If we are in school, and you just need to speak up for yourself, because I can't know what's going on inside each of your heads all the time. So let me know when you need a break. Okay? All right. This is for your assignment. So you're going to pick a topic from column A and an assignment from column B. This is where your choice comes into play here. So this will be posted in Google Classroom. You're either going to pick a part of the brain, okay, so maybe an area or an organ or something like that. The corpus callosum is one of my favorites because it's kind of the highway between the left and right sides of the brain. Or you're going to pick a thing like memory formation or a synapse, that's a connection between two cells. Task switching. So you're going to pick a topic from here, and this is not a complete list. You can maybe do some research and find something else that interests you. And then these are your two assignment options. You can either write 2 paragraphs about your topic, or you can create a comic or poster that explains something you learned in your research. Okay, this will be submitted in Google Docs. You do need to include your resources. I will post resources. They are posted by the time you see this in the Google Classroom. Okay? So I think that's it. Again, I'm sorry this video is a little long. I hope you have a wonderful week.